When Henry Ford started his car company in 1903, he took a business partner by the name of James Couzens. Couzens was strong where Ford was weaker, in areas like administration, finance, sales. Couzens contributed as much to the success of the Ford Motor Company as did Ford. Many of the best-known policies and practices of the Ford Motor Company, for which Henry Ford is often given credit, were actually Couzens' ideas. So effective did Couzens become that Ford grew increasingly jealous of him and forced him out in 1917 because of an argument over the future of the Model T. James Couzens said that the car was obsolete and that they should move on to other things. Henry Ford disagreed, and he got rid of Couzens. And he kept making Model Ts until he had nearly run his company into the ground. What happens, even to bright, successful people, which causes them to hurt their own career rather than share the glory with someone else? Now, September was the month when grapes were harvested in ancient Israel. September was also the month when the rainy season began in Israel. And I think this is important for us to think about as we think about the gospel that we just heard. If the torrential rains came before the harvest, the entire crop could be severely damaged or even destroyed. And so harvesting the grapes often became a race against time. The riper the grapes, the better the taste. So the vineyard owner would wake each morning during the harvest season trying to determine the opportune day for the harvest. So for example, the owner wakes and he notices that the sky is black with storm clouds. The torrential rains are coming, so he rushes to the marketplace to hire workers. And as the day progresses, the storm is gaining on the workers. So he goes back several times to the marketplace to hire more workers to pick his grapes before the storm begins. The owner's efforts pay off, and he gets his grapes picked in time. And he's so happy that he decides to pay all the workers a full day's wage, a denarius. That was one day's work. So let's look at this just from the perspective of a good administrator. It could be that the workers hired at the start of the day did not work as hard as they could have. Why? Because it seems rather surprising that an experienced owner would miscalculate so badly the number of the workers needed for his harvest. But on the other hand, the owner's decision to pay the part-time worker a full day's wage and to pay them ahead of all the other workers suggests that they had worked extra hard at bringing in the grapes. Hence, the owner responds to the complaint by saying, "My friend, I'm not cheating you. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Are you envious because I am generous?" Well, obviously, Jesus was trying to make a point in telling this parable. The part-time workers were the sinners and the outcasts of that day. Why? Because they were the people who took Jesus' preaching very seriously and reformed their lives. Like the good thief on the cross who repented at the last minute and was saved. They were like the prodigal son who repented after leaving home and squandering everything, and yet was welcomed back by his father. Now, the full-time workers, on the other hand, were people like the Pharisees, who became angry when sinners repented and entered God's kingdom at the last minute. They were people like the elder brother in the story of the prodigal son. He became angry when his brother repented and was received by his father with open arms. In effect, Jesus was saying, "Behold how loving your heavenly Father is. Contrast his great love with your own lack of love toward your brothers and sisters." So you see, the real problem here is jealousy and envy. Jealousy and envy. Henry Ford became jealous of James Couzens, his partner, and he pushed him out of the company and nearly destroyed the entire company. The early hired workers in the vineyard were jealous of the ones hired later. Envy and jealousy are sins that hide inside of us. And we can see this especially today in this age of social media, where we find ourselves comparing ourselves to everyone from all over the world, because social media opens it up to everybody. And we may be experiencing envy that's robbing our joy, and we may not be aware that we are struggling with it. So it's a kind of hidden sin. Also, envy and jealousy are not only less visible, but they are also more miserable. They make us miserable. Think of where envy and jealousy can take you. When we think of it as the half-empty glass or the half-full glass mentality, envy and jealousy puts us in the half-empty mentality. I may have this, but another person has this, and I want it. St. Thomas Aquinas describes it as sorrow for another's good. It's the opposite of love. Why? Because love is, I'm happy when you're happy, and I'm sad when you're sad. But you see, envy and jealousy is, I'm sad when you're happy, and I'm happy when you're sad. They're opposites. Envy and jealousy robs the joy out of our lives. So, what is the antidote for us? Gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote for envy and jealousy. If envy and jealousy focuses on the glass as half empty, gratitude focuses on the glass as half full. In other words, we are focusing on the blessings in our lives. So instead of focusing on friends who have this or that I don't have, let me focus on the blessings that I do have, intentionally focusing on the blessings that I have been given. You know, just think about that. You know, as you're driving to work and you have time to think, just start counting your blessings. Turn the radio off. Just be silent for a couple of moments and just start thinking of the blessings that you have been given. You're awake. You're alive. You probably can walk. You can speak. You have a bathroom that you can use. You have a toilet. You don't have an outhouse. You have water that you turn a faucet on. You have hot water so that you don't have to freeze when you take a shower. You have aching joints to remind you that they're there. That's a good thing, right? I feel it every morning. But I thank God, and I keep them moving so that I can get them going again. And I can move. The blessings that we have are legion, so many blessings, and we completely ignore them. We take them for granted. So you will begin to notice how many blessings there are and how easy it is to overlook them if you just take a few moments to acknowledge them. And that is when we begin to see that the glass is very half full. And we push envy and jealousy out of our lives, and the invisible and miserable becomes visible and joyful.